Welcome to Compass Points, the weekly podcast for CompassKnox.com. CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. You can find their daily in-depth coverage and subscribe at CompassKnox.com.
Welcome to Compass Points, a podcast about Knoxville and Knox County government, politics, business, education, and just about anything else that grabs our attention. I'm Scott Barker, the editor of Compass, and Compass is a subscription-based website and newsletter where we report on all these topics and more, and you can find us at CompassKnox.com. Joined today, as always, by Compass co-founder Jesse Mayshar. Jesse, how are things going today?
Going pretty well. It's, we're heading, it's kind of funny. I hadn't totally processed this because we're only a few years into having Juneteenth as a, fully observed state, federal holiday. And it creates this interesting dynamic, I think, where we have one holiday week and then we have this sort of week in between, which is where we are now. And we have another holiday week coming up. And I think it creates sort of an interesting little area here in the summer. It's kind of, I feel like it's changed the rhythm of summer in interesting ways.
Well, I think the more holidays, the better, if you ask me. So, but that's just me. So, we are also joined by Lord Seth Barber, who does all things technical for our podcast, in his opulent marble-floored, gilded studio in Rocky Hill. Seth.
I was going to joke that I'm not cleaning up, which is why you don't talk about the beautiful marble anymore. But
no,
I do clean up. But whatever. Yeah. What was the question? I'm sorry, I got distracted by the marble conversation.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask for the 3-day-old weather report.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's proper summer. We had a little bit of a cool off this week, like kind of out of nowhere. It dropped and like almost could barely say it got chilly overnight. 1 or 2 nights.
Very
this past
comfortable
week.
Evenings. I liked it.
Absolutely.
And on the holiday thing, I agree. It's been and in the selfish part of it, where I'll say where I don't like having more holidays is when they're weekday holidays and you can't do banking stuff. It sometimes gets to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. I think it's just jealousy. I want to be a banker so I can work those hours and have all these random days off that nobody else does. Seems like a winning strategy for employment.
Well, yeah. Well. You still have 4 days in the week you can bank, so.
Yes, except when it's a Friday. Like, okay, so fine. For me, it's especially when it's a Friday or Monday holiday is when it gets rough because making sure I have bank at all my locations so that I can make change for people and stuff like that. Although it's gotten easier over the years because cash is weird. People don't carry as much cash as they used to, but that's always the one that catches me off guard is like a Friday holiday. It's like, oh, hey, make sure we have extra bank for the weekend. Oh, wait. We can't go to the bank today. We just got to make.
You're in businesses that probably actually do a lot of business on holidays.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We do better on holidays. People enjoy having the day off. It's usually the thing that helps the most is the night before, which is usually a weeknight, turns into a weekend night, and then it's like, oh, it's a holiday tomorrow. Sweet. We got a little bump. We got an early Friday, so that does come out on the positive for us as well. Yes.
All right. Well. Last week was a busy one for Knox County Commission, at least, and we'll be talking about them. We're going to start. We're also going to talk about the pending closure of closure now.
It'll be closed
by the time this airs.
Yeah.
Club XYZ and Happy Holler. We're going to talk a little bit about Councilman Denzel Grant being named to the chairmanship of the African American Equity Restoration Task Force. Mouthful for that organization, for that board. We'll talk about the state of Tennessee and the Knox County Schools TCAP scores, which were released last week, and we'll do an update on the property reappraisal process. Phil Ballard, the property assessor, gave County Commission an update on Monday. But the big thing that we'll talk about is the the commission's data center moratorium, which if you were fortunate enough to skip Monday's meeting of the Knox County Commission, which lasted more than 5 hours, the last hour or so of it was taken up with a discussion about the data center moratorium. If you recall, with last month they passed a resolution asking the Knox County Planning Commission to come up with an amendment to the zoning code to regulate where data centers can be located, size, all kinds of the land use part of that. And communities all over the country, all over Tennessee, are kind of scrambling to regulate these centers, which use enormous amounts of electricity and enormous amounts of water and generate enormous amounts of noise. And nobody likes them except the investors. And that's pretty much it. And I guess the people who are all into AI and cryptocurrency, because that's what they're used for. But anyway, one of the things that happened to that is and this becomes important, they have to go to Planning Commission first to amend the zoning code. So it goes to them. Planning Commission comes up with a recommendation. Then it goes to County Commission, or in the city's case, City Council, for approval. So that's how the zoning code gets changed. State law, locals can't do anything about it. So then Commissioner Andy Fox, who's been the kind of the leading the charge against the data centers, proposed a moratorium on construction of new data centers. Wanted to prevent any business from opening a new data center or starting to open a new data center before these regulations could be developed. And a lot of people thought that made sense, that there could be a rush to do that, and that kind of ran into a roadblock. They were meeting to do that. There were going to be some amendments anyway, and they did amend it slightly. One is they increased the amount of power that one of these that would be covered under the moratorium from 5 megawatts to 10 megawatts.
Right. So if it's a data center that's going to be using less than 10 megawatts, it's not subject to the moratorium.
It's not subject to the moratorium. They did that because Comcast and AT&T were concerned that the way that it was written, that their facilities could be construed as falling under this. Comcast is maybe, I mean, they didn't say they were, but they said if we expand, we could go above 5
right, because their existing ones would be grandfathered in.
Existing ones are grandfathered, and that's one of the things they said. You're grandfathered in, and the way that the statute is written, they wouldn't be covered. I mean, they're not under the moratorium, but anybody new would be. So so that passed. They were going to, and it's not one. Only one commissioner was kind of dead set against it, even though they ended up voting for it. And that was Larson J. He was basically saying, this is a problem in search of a solution in search of a problem. Nobody's building one, and they aren't. There's nothing pending before the Planning Commission. Nobody's applied for permits through Engineering and Public Works. The utilities said that nobody's approached them. And that just about has to happen first, because these data centers require such enormous amounts of electricity that there has to be new infrastructure, new power lines and such for them, and they pay for that. So they have to go to KUB and say, we want to do this, and we'll pay for or KUB says, no, you can, but you'll pay for the infrastructure. And none of that's going on. Nobody's doing anything. So he didn't think that there was a much of a urgency to this, but everyone else did, and he ended up going along with it anyway. But one of the things that happened, and this was really interesting to me because I covered this back in the day, and you did too, I believe, that the Benjamin Mullins, who's a prominent local attorney who does a lot of land, most of his practice, if not all, is on land use. He's a frequent. He frequently represents clients at planning commission and for
developers in particular.
But he has represented the homeowners and stuff, but primarily developers. I think it's because he charges so much, only developers can.
That's where the money is in land use law.
Excuse me, but he represents. He said he represented a data center that is grandfathered in, but not anybody who's thinking about doing a new one. And there are about 10 data centers in the county.
Mostly pretty small.
Most of them are small. There's one really big one in Forest of the River. But he pointed out that there was a Tennessee State Supreme Court lawsuit or ruling that had a direct impact on this, and that county commission might want to think twice about just imposing a moratorium on this. And this was a case that was the ruling came down in 2004, but it involved Cherokee Country Club and the city of Knoxville. And
it actually dates back to the Ashe administration.
Oh, absolutely. And basically the upshot is the Supreme Court decided that more, when they going to take these things on a case by case basis, but when a judge looks at these kinds of disputes, they have to look to make sure that the government isn't trying to weasel its way around state's zoning requirements. And as I said earlier, the state law requires that a municipality or county go to planning commission first on zoning matters. Well, going back to the Cherokee Country Club dispute, that was over a house. It was
a historic house.
A historic house. It was built in 1915 for the owner of White Lily Flour, which was one of the iconic brands that emerged out of Knoxville. So it was a beautiful, beautiful house. It was an Italian Renaissance Revival house. It sat across from Cherokee Country Club's clubhouse and surrounded on three sides by the Cherokee Country Club golf course. And so in 1999, Cherokee Country Club bought it. And they were wanting to tear it down and put in a parking lot for their the golf clubhouse. There was a big faction of Cherokee Country Club members, however, who were very interested in historic preservation and did not want to see it torn down. They joined forces with Knox Heritage and got Mayor Victor Ashe on board.
Yeah, this was really the beginning of Ashe's commitment to historic preservation, which then became kind of a big cause for him in the last couple of years of his mayoral term, and has he's continued to be a supporter of historic preservation ever since.
Oh, absolutely. And what he did was he got city council to pass an emergency ordinance, putting a moratorium, that word again, on demolition permits in areas under consideration for historic overlay, historic protection. Then in 2000, and he did this, and Cherokee Country Club didn't know about it. He asked the Planning Commission to put a historic designation over the Smith Coughlin house. So then a few weeks later, when Cherokee Country Club went to get a demolition permit to tear it down, they were denied. Well, as you might expect, they sued. And anyway, the trial court sided with Cherokee Country Club. The Court of Appeals, the city appealed it. Court of Appeals sided with the city. So it lands in the Supreme Court. And what they determined was they'd never seen a case like it before. This is a case of first impression. And what they basically said, and the city's argument was, we're just using our police powers. This is just like enforcing building codes, which don't have to go to Planning Commission for approval. They're just there. And Cherokee Country Club said, no, you're basically illegally revising the zoning code, because we won't be able to do anything with the property. And the Supreme Court looked at it and said, sure enough, that is akin to a zoning change, and that should go to Planning Commission. And they came up with a test for these types of disputes, which has been used in courts ever since in Tennessee. There was one from a couple of years ago that there's somebody had a one community wanted to put a moratorium on new rock quarries. Supreme Court struck that down. And but the whole deal is, if it looks like a zoning change, if it sounds like a zoning change, if it walks like a zoning change, it's a zoning change, whatever you call it. So and Mullins brought that up at the county commission meeting. It was kind of interesting. Senior Deputy Law Director Mike Moyers kind of agreed with him that, yeah, that could be an interpretation, but it's not part of our zoning code now. These data centers aren't covered under the zoning code. And he said he thought he would be able to defend the county if they went that way too.
Right. And to be clear, both the county and the city have actually asked the Planning Commission to come up with data center regulations.
Right, the regulations, but the moratorium.
Right. But I mean,
also,
but they can say that the moratorium is like that they are going to the Planning Commission, and that the moratorium is just to kind of like maintain the status quo while it's being developed. So, I guess the argument on their side would be, we're not circumventing the Planning Commission. Yeah. We're going to the Planning Commission. Yeah. But because there's this kind of like gold rush going on with these things, we just want to kind of make sure we can keep things stable until we get that. Well, now, I mean, this would all have to be, the only way this would end up going to court is if somebody has been planning to do one of these that would be blocked by the moratorium, that they, would then file a lawsuit over. And as you say, there isn't anything pending right now. So, I mean, Mullins may well be making a legitimate legal case there, but he doesn't have a client who's actually getting ready to challenge it. So it's quite possible that we just won't find out whether this would or wouldn't fall under that. Right.
Well, what they ended up doing, and Moyers said, you can make arguments either way, and they could go either way. And so what he suggested they do, and Mullins also suggested this, is take a belt and suspenders approach. They've already so what they ended up doing, Fox amended his proposal yet again. There were several times it changed over the course of this hour-long discussion, to where the moratorium, the commission passed it and it took effect immediately. However, they are also going to Planning Commission and asking them to come up with a draft moratorium that would accomplish the same thing. They have asked Planning Commission to expedite that, although Planning Commission's got its plate full.
Yeah, including with developing the full data center regulations that the county's asked.
Yeah, they're also doing the Unified Development Ordinance for the county. They started updating the comprehensive plan for the city, and then they've got your monthly work that they do. So anyway, I'm not sure how quickly they can expedite that, but they've been asked to expedite it. And that way, if there ever is a challenge, the moratorium will have gone through Planning Commission, and at the end of it, if it's substantially different from what County Commission passed, they can adopt it and rescind what County Commission passed last week. So that way, Moyer said, if you do both of them, you're bulletproof. Nothing bad's going to happen. So they've done that. So we shouldn't. There should not be any new data centers in the short-term future, and we'll see how the long-term future goes. I'm sure that in communities that have made similar restrictions, I'm sure that there are data centers that oppose them and take them to court. Although one thing is, there's so many jurisdictions in the United States, and so many of them would have looser zoning requirements than Knox County does, and all that. They could probably just go there and do it and not.
Well, and that's part of the thing here is that the opposition to data centers is really interesting because it's grown tremendously over the past year. It kind of came from not really being much of an issue on most people's political radar to being a pretty significant one all across the country. And it's a very bipartisan reaction. Like people in red states, blue states, big cities, small towns, people don't like these. They especially don't want them near their houses or their farms or whatever. And so that has created political pressure at both local and state levels for people to take a stand on it. And it's interesting. You're seeing both. I mean, you mentioned that this was coming on commission from Fox, who's one of the most kind of far right county commissioners. But there are people on the left, other places, who are the ones really driving this. And I think that, at a certain level, this is like political low-hanging fruit because lots of people are against data centers and the number of people out there actively campaigning for them, like you said, it's mostly the people who want to build them and use them and make money off of them. So there is a level where it's a little bit performative, especially because in Knox County, like this just is, as you say, we have several existing ones, although mostly smaller, and the kind of huge ones that have especially generated opposition, they require a lot of land, which means they especially tend to go to areas where land is cheap and available, and there is abundant power from like local utilities. That's kind of the sweet spot that these places are looking for. We've got the power because we have TVA, but land in Knox County has not been cheap in a while, and is especially not cheap right now. And there just aren't these big undeveloped sorts of, hundreds of acres lots out there that would be suitable for this. And to the degree that there are, you're going to make a lot more money developing those in Knox County for residential use or some other use than for, one of these data centers. So the likelihood, I'm not saying it couldn't happen absent some sort of government regulation, but the likelihood that Knox County is going to see a lot of these large scale data centers, it's not very likely. We're already a fairly developed county, and the areas that are undeveloped are much more likely to be developed for residential and commercial use than any kind of industrial use like this.
Yeah, and you were talking about the opposition. One of the things that the opposition has started pointing out is that other than the construction phase, these data centers don't employ very many people.
Right. they get talked about as like we're going to make a tens of millions dollar investment here, and that's true, but most of that is in the construction of it and in the actual hardware that goes inside them. They do not have much by way of lasting economic impact on the community.
It's a couple of people who walk in and turn on the lights and flip on the computers, and that's it. They monitor them,
and they don't play a role in the local economy. It's not like the data stays here somehow or whatever.
Yeah, some of these smaller ones are those are Comcast and AT&T both have that they service this area through their facilities here.
Or like the one on Summit Hill Drive there, that's a secure data center that stores lots of data and records, including for many local entities, including the hospitals.
Covenant Health is the main user of that up there. So it's data is good. I mean, it's not and that's one of the things they wrestled with was, okay, what size is appropriate for this, and as we all know, technology changes rapidly. For all we know, 5 years from now, data centers won't be nearly as big. They could require less or more energy. We don't know. You don't know the future of them because, 10 years ago, nobody even talked about a data center like this. So,
although they existed, and that
existed,
an interesting point that County Mayor Glenn Jacobs made in signing, because when commission passes something like this, it goes to the county mayor for his signature. And so Jacobs, of course, is a self-identified libertarian. I know Seth sometimes has issues with him using that word, but Jacobs calls himself a libertarian. He certainly is, in the sense of tending to be against government regulation of business. And so this is the kind of thing that would tend to probably rub him the wrong way, which I think is why he felt compelled to make a statement about it. He said he was going to sign it, but he did point out, which is true. I mean, he put this video up online, and he said, if you are watching this video, whether it's on your phone or home computer or whatever it is, you're using a data center. That's we talk about things being in the cloud, but the cloud is not actually a cloud. The cloud is a whole bunch of data centers all over the country. That all of the major tech companies use. And so we all use data centers every day. They are a necessary part of the infrastructure of, the digital world. It's just that in the kind of this AI boom that we're in, people are suddenly building, they were built much more slowly.
Well, it's the scale.
Exactly.
It's not the fact that they're data centers. Because like I said, they're like 10 in Knox County right now. But it's the scale that's kind of
like the one that
I won't say
Meta,
unprecedented, but it's that's the rub is you've got these big buildings with server after server after server in there that require all kinds of cooling and electricity to run the cooling and water to help cool them down and help them run. That these that smaller data centers just don't need.
Yeah, I mean, Meta, the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, is building one of the largest ones in the country in Louisiana, outside of New Orleans. It's going to use more energy than the entire city of New Orleans.
Yeah, that's
so that and we haven't been operating at that scale before, and that's exactly what people are reacting to.
Yeah, and so there apparently will not be a large-scale data center near you anytime soon, and maybe if the zoning regulations go through, maybe not for a very long time or ever. So anyway, one of the other items that took up quite a bit of time at the county commission meeting on Monday was a presentation from property assessor Phil Ballard on the reappraisal process. If you are a property owner in Knox County, you have received your notice of how much your property has grown in value over the past 4 years, and I'm sure there was a lot of sticker shock. Ballard didn't have any dramatic new numbers. They're getting ready. What they're doing is they're winding up the informal appeals process. Up until now, people can call them up or go online and appeal their assessment. You've overvalued my house, and I'm going to have to pay more in taxes. I don't want to do it. And they take a look at that. Now, you've got to have something to back that up with. But now they're shifting into the appeals would be more formal and go to the county's Board of Equalization. Then they could go further to the State Board of Equalization. And the State Board of Equalization, once they go through all these appeals and everything, they will basically declare the reappraisal over, and we'll have to adjust the property tax rates all over the state because, as we've mentioned before, it always needs to be said when under state law, local governments cannot get a windfall merely from a reappraisal. It has to be what they call revenue neutral, and that means that from existing development, existing property, not new development property, but existing property, they can't make more money in tax revenues than they did before. Since property goes up in value, that means the tax rate has to go down.
Well, if property goes up in value, I mean,
if property
in Knox County, we're
does.
very accustomed now to decades worth of property continually increasing in value, and there's no reason to think that won't continue for the future. But that's not true everywhere.
No, it's not true.
There are places in this country where property values have gone down.
Yeah,
too.
And but for Knox County, they've gone up, and this reappraisal cycle, which is a 4-year cycle, the last of the 4-year cycles, properties increased in value by an average of around 60%. And that was unchanged from what they looked at before. Was these appeals, if they're granted, can change the numbers, and so these are tentative numbers, but they're in the ballpark. And what one of the things that, of course, everybody wants to go to the bottom line, and Ballard pointed out that in the county, the current rates $1.55 per $100, and there's a formula there. The assessed value is a quarter of appraised value, but and then you apply the formula to it. In the city, and they hadn't talked about this before, the city's rate, the county's rate will drop to around 96 cents per $100 assessed value. That's then the city's rate looks to be ready to drop from $2.15 per $100 of assessed value to about $1.37. So everybody's tax rates will be going down, but your tax bills may not. Of course, we always have to bring that up, and this is nothing new.
I mean, theoretically, about half of people will see an increase, and I mean, it's a 60% average, which means that some properties went up less than 60%, some went up more than 60%, and so if your value went up more than 60%, your overall tax bill will go up some. My assessment went up 59%, and so I did the math, and as far as I can tell, between combined city, county taxes, I believe our property taxes are going to go down $1.72 per year.
Well, I'm going to cover that. our value went up 63%.
Yep.
So,
you're picking up the slack.
Yes, I am picking up the slack for you.
I'm looking at mine right now. I'm pretty sure I broke that 60%, so mine's going up.
Well,
but you don't pay city taxes.
That's true. Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Well, and that's that's one thing. If you own a $300,000 house, if you're a county resident, well, I mean, I've got it right here. Anyway, a city resident, $300,000 house, pay about $7. Of that, a little bit over 1,000.
Right. The city rate's higher. More of your taxes are going to the city.
But Ballard did also have he kind of had I don't know why he picked this number, but he kind of had a handy reference point, and it was a $254,300 house. And that property owner would pay $988 a year in county. This is county only. If it increased by 80% instead of 60%, they pay $1,099, which is an 11% increase. Mm-hmm. And then, but if it's only 40% increase, they would pay 13.6% less. So, you're not talking about, when you talk about the values going up 60%, you're not talking about your tax bill going up 60%. That's one of the things that people panic about. But Ballard said this year's been not as confrontational with people. One thing, a lot more people are using the online appeals process, so they're not calling in and talking to a human being who they then cuss out. And he said the other factor is everybody in Knox County knows that property values have just shot up through the roof over the last 4 years, and everybody expected to have their house valued higher. So I
actually thought mine was going to go up more based on what some of the houses in our neighborhood have been selling for. But you know what? People who think their appraisal might be a little low don't tend to appeal.
No. They don't. You're not going to appeal, are you?
No.
Okay.
They could have left it where it was for all I care.
Well, if I
mean, there are functional, financial things that you can do differently based on appraised value.
Right. You can take out
or something like that, a home equity loan
and that kind of thing, for sure.
But if that's not on your agenda, then yes, correct.
Yeah.
Mum's
because
the word.
Even if your appraisal is low to market value, that doesn't change the market value. And so if you go to sell your house, you'll still sell it for whatever the market value is.
Yeah.
Likewise, if your appraisal went up a whole lot, that doesn't guarantee you would be able to sell your house for whatever it's appraised at. That's one thing you and your realtor might look at and setting an asking price, but there's no promise you're going to get it just because Phil Ballard says your house is worth this much.
Yeah. Well, no, one thing Ballard did say is, they try their best to, during the reappraisal, at the time of the reappraisal, to be as close to market value as they can get. And who knows?
Yeah. That's obviously that's the goal. You're trying to tax people based on the actual value of what they own.
But property in Knox County's gone up so fast that they're going to be setting the certified tax rate in August, and by October, these homes will probably be increased in value above what the appraisal is. So.
Well, and they are going to be moving to a 2-year cycle going forward, right?
Right. They are moving to a 2-year cycle. That is going to be, so you'll see your values go up more frequently, but at a lower rate.
So maybe not have that sticker shock.
Yeah. Instead of, this was a 4-year reappraisal, instead of 60% in one fell swoop, it might be 20%, or 30% in a 2-year cycle.
Or if we hit a recession, maybe it won't go up much at all.
It won't go up much at all. And that does a couple things. First of all, it does make that a little less volatile for people to keep up with. And also one of those really weird quirks where, and when you're on a 4-year appraisal cycle, after 2 years, utilities and business equipment, the taxes, the taxes they put on business equipment and supplies and those things, those go down. They get a discount after 2 years. So what this does is, since it's only a 2-year cycle, that discount doesn't come into play. So in the past, in years 3 and 4 of the appraisal cycle, city and county governments did not take in as much money because they couldn't, charge for the personal property and the utilities and that sort of thing. So that helps government, keeps them from having to contemplate raising taxes to cover that, because they don't have to, their revenues will be 100% of what the appraisal shows. Anyway, we will not know, though, those exact numbers until August. So when the State Board of Equalization will come out with it, then County Commission and City Council will have to approve the new tax rates. And as we said, they cannot, just by the reappraisal alone, cannot increase the amount of revenue they get. If they want to do that, they have to separately raise, which ain't going to happen.
Not this year for sure.
No. Also this week, or last week, the state released its statewide and local TCAP score. They look pretty decent for what TCAP measures. All right. Maybe you can...
Yeah. And these are the 2025 scores, because it takes, a year to sort of fully process scores from across the state and compile them. And so the State Department of Education released the statewide numbers on Wednesday, and then we got the local district level numbers on Thursday. And, if you look over time, basically there was a big dip in TCAP scores. These are if you don't know what TCAPs are, they are the state standardized tests that are given to students at multiple grade levels, starting in 3rd grade and then continuing in various forms up through high school. And during the COVID pandemic in Tennessee, as across the country, those scores took a really steep dive for a couple of years because of all the disruptions to learning and just everything that surrounded the pandemic. There was this whole a bit of a panic, you could even say, around learning loss from the pandemic and how they were going to make it up and so forth. And not saying that the students who were affected by that don't have some lasting impact from it. But they have recovered all of the ground, both statewide and in Knox County, lost during the pandemic, and actually are now, like this, the 2025 scores are actually a bit higher than the 2019 scores were that year before the pandemic. So all of that ground has been regained and then some. And, the number that everybody looks at is the ELA, English Language Arts scores, especially in elementary schools, because there's a lot of focus on getting kids proficient in reading and reading comprehension early, so that they are then able to better absorb all of the material that they're going to learn, from 3rd grade forward. And the state rose to, I think it was around 43% proficiency in ELA. And that's like all grade levels statewide. So that's kind of throwing everything into a blender. Knox County has typically scored a point or two better than the state average, and that was true again this year. Knox County rose to right around 45% proficiency in ELA across all grade levels. And I think it was the highest in high schools, which is common. You would hope that you would have a higher percent of students scoring proficient in high school. So they were around 48%. And then elementary schools were also in the around the 45% mark. And then middle schools were lower. Middle schools are always, and I think that's just intuitive. Anybody who went to middle school could tell you that, scores are lower in middle school. Kids have got a lot on their minds in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Maybe we just shouldn't test them at all.
A lot of changes going on 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Just try to get them to 9th grade, and then you can start applying academic rigor again.
And from a parent's perspective, it's the exact same thing.
Absolutely.
Just let me get you to high school.
Yeah. Those are just rough years. There's no way around it. So, the overall trajectory is good. John Ryswick, Knox County Superintendent, came out and, said that we've had 5 straight years of coming out of the pandemic of improved performance, which of course they're happy to see. Now, if you go to the state report card that breaks all this down at the district level, you will see that these gains are not universally distributed demographically. And if you look at the racial ethnic breakdown, and this is again just something you kind of see across the board, across the country, and there are economic and cultural reasons behind all of these things, but Asian students score the highest by far, like in Knox County, which of course has a relatively small Asian population, but very high performing, like 73% of Asian students were proficient. For white non-Hispanic students, that number was around 53%, and then it drops to like the 25-ish% for Hispanic students and then 23% for Black students. But what those really correlate with is socioeconomic inequality.
Oh, absolutely.
Students who are classified as economically disadvantaged only scored about 20% proficient on the ELA tests. And that's just a very common measure because students are economically disadvantaged. Like that's calculated on an income basis, but there's typically a lot of other things wrapped up around there. There's family instability issues. There's if you're economically disadvantaged, you're less likely to be well fed, to have a stable living situation. You might be moving multiple times during the year. Like there's just lots of things that interfere with students' academic progress. And so all of that showed up too. But, the overall picture, and certainly the one that the state and Knox County want to emphasize the most, is that the scores have gotten significantly better since the pandemic, and they appear to be on an, pretty solid upward trajectory.
Yeah. And, the thing you mentioned there is to me vitally important is the socioeconomic factor there. Of course, this also shows that the compared to population as a whole, African Americans and Hispanics are more economically challenged as a group, or as groups, and so that gets the real core issue there, as it is with crime, is poverty. And the one of the interesting things that that I ran across, and I know you have because you've covered education a lot more than I have, is that students who are economically challenged families will do better in school if they are in a school that is predominantly well off or fairly well off. Doesn't have to be rich, but where they're in the minority. And they do perform better than economically challenged families, students who are in the majority in the school they're in. So
there's a strong peer group effect.
Yes, and which is one of those things that kind of screams for more desegregation of our society, in that that you really want to make sure that kids as many kids as possible. At least I would think so. You would want to make sure as many kids as possible who are from low-income families will be in schools where they are actually in the minority, and whatever that osmosis is that feeds into that helps them out and helps raise their boats. So.
Sure. And there was also an interesting study that came out this week about segregation that showed that Tennessee is one of the most racially segregated states in the country in terms of its schools. And that the way they measure that is basically what's the likelihood that a student who is in a racial minority is going to be in a school that is predominantly made up of other students of a racial minority versus being in a school with a more mixed population, like you say. There are various reasons. Interestingly, Tennessee is the most segregated state in the South and one of the most segregated in the country, but not as segregated as New York State. Because and again, a lot of these are socioeconomics. It's people self-segregating by the communities that they live in or can afford to live in, and that's those are big challenges, and we are clearly well past the era of the 1970s where there was a lot of sort of forced integration with busing and those kinds of things. I don't think we're going to see that return in our current political climate, but it just kind of shows how deep a lot of these challenges run and how persistent they are.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of challenges, at least the realm of race, the city council of Knoxville last week appointed Councilman Denzel Grant to be the chair of the city's African American Equity Restoration Task Force. That is was put together a few years ago by at the urging and the of then Councilwoman Gwen McKenzie, and she represented the 6th district, which is the city's only majority-minority district, and what it was designed to do was go after grant money to $100 million of grant money was the goal in grant money to go to projects that help create wealth for African American residents, in part as the city's acknowledgement that urban renewal destroyed what was a segregated but thriving African American community. In the 1960s and early 1970s, got a little bit of pushback because of its focus on race, but really it is predominantly there to go after grant money and fund projects like that. McKenzie was on the board of the task force. Was on the task force, but she wasn't the chair of the task force. And when she rotated off council, it's term limited, so she's no longer there, and there is no longer a council member representative on this task force, which was created by council. So the council's 2 African American representatives, Grant, who is the 6th district representative replacing McKenzie now, and Amelia Parker, who's an at-large city council member, proposed that the 6th district council member, because of the majority district status, be the appointee to the task force by city council, and that person also serve as chair. So Grant's going to be doing that, and it'll be kind of interesting to see that with the change there from the founder rotating off to a successor coming on, if the task force changes course at all in what they do. But that.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's just important to point out about this task force, because it gets, I think, sometimes inaccurately branded as reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen especially some Republican candidates in races. When they send out flyers, they've accused members of city council of voting for reparations, which is a scary word to some people, I guess.
Yeah.
As this is clearly not reparations. The task force is not, going around handing out checks to anybody or anything.
Yeah.
And it's not even primarily public money that they're appropriating. They're really set up to look for grants. There was that interesting debate back in 2024 about whether this $50 million grant that that the city was designated for by the Biden administration for infrastructure work in and around East Knoxville, whether that could count toward the $100 million, which of course, if they were going to count it toward the $100 million goal, that was going to provide
a lot of
a good
it.
chunk of it. But that money's gone away anyway. So whether or not it should have counted is immaterial, because the Trump administration rescinded that particular grant.
I mean, one of the reasons they said that it should count is that the task force did they were included in the application for that grant, and that grant was to reconnect communities that were split up by urban renewal. So it really fit in with what they did. Now, how much sway that had and whether they were awarded the grant, I don't know. And but like you said, it doesn't matter now.
Well, the fact that the grant was designated to try to make up for past racial discrimination was exactly why the Trump administration rescinded it, because they don't like anything like that. They're 100% against that. But it leaves the task force with some ways to go to reach its $100 million goal.
Yeah, it's going to be. It was always going to be a challenge to reach that goal. And like you said, I mean, these aren't reparations. Reparations are, that's cash money. It's check to an individual to make up for something that happened generations ago. That is not what this is. Yeah. This is to provide opportunities that were taken away essentially 40 years ago, so 50 years ago. So, the task force is going to be moving forward. Current chair, Tanisha Fitzgerald Baker, she's no longer going to be the chair, but that it will be interesting to see once this transition is made, kind of what direction to look at there. Also last week, the Club XYZ, which is the city's one of only 2 gay bars in the city, in Happy Holler, announced that they were going to be closing. Jesse, you covered this. How did they announce what was going to happen and what's going on with Club XYZ?
Yeah, the announcement came in a social media post on, I think it was Monday night. The owner of Club XYZ, Richard Cameron, put up a post basically saying that he had been informed that they were being evicted by their landlord. He said a lot of nasty things about the landlord, and that this Saturday, which that is last Saturday by the time you're hearing this, but the last Saturday of June was going to be their last night. They're having a big pride party that night, and that then they were going to shut down. And actually they have a liquidation sale planned for Monday. So if you want to buy any bits and pieces of Club XYZ, I think it sounds like pretty much everything in the place is going to be for sale during the day on Monday. You can go down there.
His mugs, beer signs, whatever.
Couches, fixtures, I think kind of anything he can sell, he's going to. The landlord, Daniel Shu, he's the biggest property owner there, kind of in the heart of Happy Hour. He owns property on both sides of North Central Street, including the building that XYZ is in. He then put out a statement the next day saying that this was just, a simple landlord-tenant issue, and that essentially the club was way behind on taxes. And Cameron confirmed to the News Sentinel that he was like $17,000 or $13,000 in the hole. So I think it was $17,000 that he was in the hole on past rent, and so that was why they were being evicted. And Shu said that there would be a new LGBTQ aligned business opening there in the near future. He didn't say what that was. It generated an awful lot of discussion online, I think partly because it's a gay club closing during Pride Month. Got a lot of attention because it is one of only two gay clubs in the city, and it's the longest running. It's been there 22 years, since 2004. And it really was a pioneer in the revitalization of Happy Holler. Like in 2004, when they opened there, that was very pre-revitalization.
Yeah.
Happy Holler was still...
wasn't as happy as it is now.
No, it was... there were some, antique stores and things like that down there, but there was not a lot going on.
Kind of place that's open for like 4 or 5 hours a day. That's not really a store. It's just somebody's junk collection that they're sort of selling sometimes to people, but mostly it's just a warehouse of my kitschy little things that I play in sometimes. That's what
was there. And now, you come 20 years out and we have a lot of businesses down there, restaurants and bars and various other things. And so, Cameron gave himself credit in his post for helping to spearhead the rejuvenation of Happy Holler, and I think he can certainly claim that. And Shu gave him credit for that as well. But I think for all the trappings of the story and the reasons that it got people's attention, it does really seem like it's just kind of a landlord-tenant dispute, which are the reasons lots of businesses close, because they can no longer pay their rent. Shu had raised rent there over the years, and Cameron had, complained about that. But, as an area like Happy Holler gets built up, one of the things that happens is rents tend to go up, which can definitely be a challenge for businesses, but it is an economic reality. It's also interesting because it is in line with a trend nationwide. Gay bars, specifically gay bars, self-identified gay bars, have been closing across the country for a couple of decades now. And, I think a lot of that is just generational. As younger generations of LGBTQ people are coming up, they're able, it's in some ways, it's a good thing. They are able to be more open about who they are more places. They don't have to go and kind of hide behind closed doors and a couple of spots, which was the case across the country for decades and decades and decades. Like many cities had like one little gay bar somewhere that people would know about. But that was kind of where you had to go if you wanted to, date somebody of the same sex or, dance with somebody of the same sex. We have, in fact, many LGBTQ friendly bars in Knoxville, places that don't specifically or only identify themselves as gay bars, but make it known that they are LGBTQ friendly and maybe host drag shows and that kind of thing without being quote unquote gay bars. At the same time, gay bars have a real cultural place in, gay history in this country. And I understand people, hating to see any of them go. With XYZ closing, at least until whatever else may open there, that will leave Knoxville with only one gay bar, which is Core Knoxville, which is on Kingston Pike in West Knoxville. So not as easily accessible to people in and around downtown as XYZ has been.
Yep. The idea that it's one of those two-edged swords that people who have for generations felt like they had to hide, no longer have to, and so they can go anywhere if they can go to
probably not anywhere and feel comfortable, but lots of places and feel comfortable. Yeah,
and I think one of those things that people that people fall prey to a little bit in this kind of conversation is that gay bar is a distinction like sports bar.
Yeah,
or like you have all these different styles of bar, and it's a style
right
that is attractive to a community. But I mean, there's plenty of straight people that go hang out in gay bars too, because
I've been to plenty of gay bars.
They like the scene, and so it's its own scene. And so while yes, there is only one of that version scene left, and that is a net negative for people that are into that. Because I think as a neighbor, I'll do a little bit of chime on this one. As a
Seth
neighbor,
happens to own a business just
right
down the street from Club
and I've had
XYZ.
plenty of interaction with both Richard and Daniel over the years down there, and they have their own idiosyncrasies, we'll say. But like it's I think part of what changed is that like you guys are saying, the atmosphere's changed. It's more normal to go out and do more normal places and stuff like that. But I think also part of it's a consequence of success on Richard's side. It's like you did bring up the holler. I'll agree with him on that. I don't know that we were down there specifically because of them, but things were starting to turn up in the neighborhood, and that's what attracted us to bring it down there. And part of that lets your clients that were exclusively going down to you explore other places and maybe hang out other places. And credit where credit's due. You made that a possibility, but it also hurts your bottom line, and that kind of, I could see that being a little upsetting to that individual. I would hate to do all that work and then lose it to things that I helped create.
Yeah.
A victim of your own success.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. But
those are the things we're going to talk about that happened last week. A lot more happened. We covered them in our on our website and in our newsletter. And if those are the kinds of things that you want to keep track of in Knoxville and Knox County, go to compassknox.com and you can subscribe and you can get all those things. So now this week, it's going to be pretty busy. There's a lot going on this week for the civic-minded person. The University of Tennessee Board of Trustees is meeting Monday and Tuesday. These are their annual meeting. It is not in Knoxville or Knox County. It is at the University of Tennessee Southern Campus in Pulaski. But you can watch it on live stream it at the Board of Trustees website. The main thing that they do during the summer meeting or the annual meeting is adopt the budget for the university system. $4 billion, give or take a few million, is what the budget is for next year. Most of that, of course, goes to the University of Tennessee Knoxville, but
and it includes some tuition and fee increases for students.
It does. Most of the at UT Knoxville, the brunt of that is going to be borne by out of state.
Right. I think in-state students, their fees are going up a little, but their tuition is not.
That is correct. Now, the other school, UT Chattanooga, UT Martin, UT Southern, the Health Sciences Center, they're seeing increased students. Some of those, the in-state students, are bearing more of a brunt. But each individual campus has different levels of tuition increases. They're going to be voting on all of them Monday and Tuesday. There's also going to be some changes. The Institute for Public Service is going to be merged in with the government relations and economic development offices. So the Institute for Public Service does a lot of work with local governments and local businesses. That's where their academic advisory operations for the cities and counties is located there. The the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, the County Technical Assistance Service,
MTAS and CTAS,
and they are we're real familiar with those aspects because they work closely with local governments and advise them as needed. So we're real familiar with their work, and but they're going to be combining those. There will be some new academic programs at UT Knoxville as well that they're going to have to approve. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the Tennessee Department of Transportation is going to have meetings about what they're going to do with the I-40, I-75 corridor from the I-75, I-40 junction in Loudoun County to the 17 miles to the I-640 interchange in West Knoxville. They're going to be it's going to be a huge overhaul. They're putting together plans for it now. There's all of the exits would need to be upgraded. We've talked about putting elevated lanes that would be toll lanes essentially over stretches of I-40. It's a big project. It will be a if they do as they say and do it on one fell swoop, it will rival the Alcoa Highway project, I think, for
the still ongoing. I just drove out to the airport the other night, and still a lot of work going on in Alcoa Highway.
Well, the one thing about the I-40 project is it wouldn't require the blasting that has taken a lot of time on Alcoa Highway. But anyway, it would disrupt a lot of traffic because that is the most heavily traveled stretch of I-40 in the state of Tennessee.
In order to theoretically make the traffic flow better in the future, there would be some prolonged period of making the traffic flow much worse in the near term.
Yes. A lot of short-term pain for long-term gain there. And they're also going to be talking about, there are, once again, I wouldn't even call them plans, but they're more aspirations for a bypass.
Concepts of hopes of a plan.
Yes, around Knoxville, for basically I-40 around Knoxville. This, what they're talking about.
Well, 75 in particular, right? Like that's what you would route around Knoxville would be 75.
What they're doing, they're talking about doing a larger version of 640.
Yeah.
And start in Roane County, go up into Anderson County around Oak Ridge, and then come out. I believe it's around Straw Plains.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can get on 75 too, but it's also people, trucks especially are going from North Carolina, say, to Arkansas, can do that and avoid Knoxville. Of course, they could do that with 640 and avoid a lot of it, but that area where 640 dumps out into I-40 now is so congested that that it's not, it doesn't help. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
Yep.
So, but anyway, they are going to have those meetings, and I'll tell you real quickly, these will all be from 5 to 7 p.m. At their locations. Monday's meeting is at Pellissippi State at the Goins Administration Building. Tuesday, the meeting will be at the city's Public Works Service Center on Morris Avenue. Wednesday's meeting will be at the Farragut Community Center, so they'll be all over the place there. Also on Tuesday, there are a couple of county commission get-togethers. First is Knox County Planning will give commissioners an update on the Unified Development Ordinance, which is the complete rewrite of all of the land use regulations and zoning regulations in the county that is underway now. They're going to update commissioners there at 11 a.m. at room 461 of the City County Building. Then Commissioner Damon Rawls is going to hold a workshop on his plan to address foreign owners of housing, or outside of Knox County people investing in housing. Basically corporate stuff. But the way it's kind of written could be anybody who owns lots. You don't have to be you could just be a very wealthy individual.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's another thing that there are people who say that's a solution in search of a problem, because it really doesn't happen a lot in Knox County.
Yeah, as our guest on last week's episode, Hanson Sale, said, that's actually a very, very small percentage of housing in Knox County is owned by those big institutional investors.
Anyway, Ross is going to have a workshop on his proposal in the conference room 575 in the City County building at 1:00 on Tuesday. So you can spend a good chunk of your you can sandwich your lunch with county commission meetings there. So finally, of course, we've got the festival on the 4th on next Saturday. It's notable to make sure that people, of course, everybody knows the 250th anniversary of the founding of the nation. Everybody's kind of blowing that out now. Even TVA, you can have TVA's having tours of their historic dams as part of that. And so this will be this is primarily an annual thing. It just happens to be the 250th anniversary. So lots of fireworks and entertainment and all that good stuff.
Knoxville Symphony playing on the big lawn at World's Fair Park.
Oh, absolutely. So,
and also, of course, related to all of this, the holiday will be observed on Friday the 3rd, and all of our state, local, and federal offices will be closed that day.
And probably the banks, too.
And probably the banks, too. Sorry, Seth.
And, you'll have to make your plans.
I got to plan ahead.
All right. Well, that's a pretty packed calendar for next week, and there will probably be more stuff that happens. We'll keep track of that and bring that to you at Compass. But that's it for this week's episode. Want to thank Lord Seth Barber for his intrepid work there at the control panel. We also wanted to thank Will Wright, who provides music for us. And Jesse, always a pleasure when you can join, which is
happy to be here.
More frequent nowadays, which I really enjoy, and it's nice to bounce stuff off of you. Thanks for coming. Thanks, you folks, for listening, and we will be back next week with another installment of Compass Points.
CompassKnox.com is your best source for news and politics in Knoxville and Knox County. If you'd like to learn more about the topics discussed on today's podcast, go to CompassKnox.com and subscribe for in-depth coverage and much more. And many thanks to William Wright for composing our theme song. Compass Points is a partnership of Barking Shark Media and Barbarian Productions, and recorded by Lord Seth A. Barber at Barbarian Studios, Knoxville, Tennessee.